So some of you might be thinking about purchasing property that is quote unquote off grid, and Starry has done this, and she has some tips for us on what we should be looking for. So what do you think, Starry?
Well, yeah, this is a loaded topic because time and time again I see where people make mistakes and they
Yeah.
trust their real estate agent, or they look at a piece of property and they're like, "Oh, it's so perfect. It's in the perfect location." And then then maybe there's a real glaring weakness, like it doesn't have any water. And even though it's got the great view and it's got a great spot, but garden spot, but we have to haul water. And I see this time and time again because I've known people who've made this mistake. And I've been there, done that. So I'm just speaking from experience and seeing what others have done. And they regret it because what happens is you set yourself up for failure when you're really not taking the time to educate yourself and do the research, because buying property can be exciting and you can really get sucked in, right? You can get sucked into,
Yeah.
oh, this is great. So I do have a little list, and I'll try to go over this effortlessly, hopefully, and very quickly. But when I counsel people about off-grid property, the first thing I say is, when you're looking at the property, one of the overlooked things is your neighbors. This could become very uncomfortable, but what you need to do, and this even happened with this tiny house here, the first thing I did, even though this tiny house is in an RV lot, I went next door to visit the lady who lives in the RV here on this park with me. And so before I even purchased it, I knocked on her door and I said, "You know what? Hi, I'm Stacy, and I am thinking about purchasing this tiny house. What can you tell me about the neighborhood?" And so she was very open and very engaging, and she told me about the neighbor kid. She told me about the guy down the road. She told me about the owner of the lot. So I got a lot of information. Plus, I got to know her. And for me, it's like, is she going to be a person that I could live next to?
Yeah.
Because moving a tiny house, even though it's still on wheels, you just don't pick up and leave, and you can't just pick up your house and leave either if you decide to commit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
So I tell people it's really important to know who your neighbors are. You could buy a piece of land or be looking at a piece of land or looking at a house, and then the guy down the road has dogs and they bark and they bark and they bark. It could drive you crazy. Or, like down the road, they're gun lovers and they're shooting off their guns at midnight, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you just you want to really do that research. When we lived in Idaho, I remember, one of the things that we did was we talked to the neighbors. We did do that, but I also talked to the local police. I went there and I said, "Okay, what's the crime in the area? Do Can I leave my things out? Um, you know, what's the deal locally?" So that's important
Yeah.
too. Um, the other thing is, it's not just talking to the police, but you should also learn what the ordinances are if you're looking at a place. I remember there was a YouTube homesteading couple that were posting videos, and one day they got in trouble because they had chickens, and apparently where they had been living for quite a while, there was an ordinance that said no chickens. And so now they're trying to set up the sustainable homestead. And because they didn't check out the ordinances, they were facing a fine. And what do you do with your chickens, right? So
Right. Yeah.
there are places that you can't raise farm animals. There are places where you may have a lot of nosy neighbors and they're going to complain. So just make sure you check out the ordinances. And even with the property, especially like on bare land, there's property that comes with easements. There's property that comes with water rights. Water is very, very valuable. But know that in some counties and in some states, um, there's actually stipulations with water and owning water, and when it comes to the river or downstream or up, whatever it is. So and a good real estate agent will help you. But I know we did a lot of research ourselves. And I bypassed the real estate agent and I called the county and I found out about the taxes and I found out who owned the property and then I did the legwork. So that was really important. The other thing is, when you are looking for that property, there's things that are just kind of no brainers. You want to make sure that it has a garden spot. You want to make sure that if you get chickens, there's going to be a place for the chicken coop. You want to make sure that the land is usable. You want to make sure that the soil is good. Make sure you get the soil tested. It doesn't take a lot of effort to do that. Um, Make sure that if you're looking at an area where the house is, what are the local resources? Can you hunt? Can you fish? What about wood harvesting? If you're going to have a wood burning stove, where are you going to get the wood? Yeah, a lot of counties require permits. You have to pay for a permit. They only allow you to harvest downed trees. So look into that. If there's animals and you're a hunter or you're a trapper, look in to see what kind of animals there are. Is there abundance of animals? Is it really hard to hunt in that area? If you're looking at sustainability, these are all things that either can go for you or work against you. you know. So setting yourself up is really, really important.
Now, what about having water on your property? Are you a fan of that, whether it's a lake or a river or something like that?
Yeah, I am. Obviously, it is more of a benefit to have some type of water source, be it a creek, be it a river, you live on the lake, or having your own well obviously is fantastic. If you have your own well, the other thing is making sure that you can get that water out of the well when the electricity goes off or you have no electricity. And there is a way now, they sell these really awesome off-grid pumps. So no matter what, if you have a good water well, that has a lot of gallons per minute, just then the only thing you need to do is make sure that you can get it when there's no electricity. But it's always a
Right.
benefit to have water on your property. And if not that, having access to water even down the road. But a well is just trumps everything. And it is sad because there's people that I've known in Idaho that they they bought land and they bought houses and they had to haul water. And the problem with hauling water is you're relying on the vehicle, the truck, and it's very hard on a truck to haul water. You're also relying on a water source, which usually is in town. It's a municipal water source, and they usually charge you. And even if they don't charge you, you're getting water that who knows. There's a fluoride in it. Is it good water? Will it always be
Yeah.
there, right? And it's you're setting yourself up for failure because you're really not independent. You're dependent again. So what? You don't have you live off the grid and you've got solar panels. Yeah, but water. If you're dependent on somebody else for water, that's just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. So
Right.
just make sure you got a good well, and it is a bonus to have water on the property, but not necessary. It's going to be the well that is going to be the most
Okay.
important. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's other little things like looking at the weather and seasonally. Like if you have a driveway, is it a driveway that needs to be maintained? How are you going to get your mail? Are they going to be able? Is Amazon going to be able to come up your driveway? We had a very long driveway. It took a lot of effort to maintain it. We had a mudslide. We lost our driveway, so we had to have the equipment to fix it. Right. And so, those are all things too. How far are you away from the local hospital? If you get sick or you have a heart attack, is the hospital a critical access hospital where they can fly you out? So there's all those little things too. People want to live in the middle of nowhere, but in the middle of nowhere, even if you're sustainable, if you have a heart attack, you're screwed. You are.
It's true. Yeah.
So that's so these are things it's good to be sustainable and be moved away from some resources, but there's some that you just got to be practical about it. You don't have to be 100 miles in the bush to be an off-gridder. You know,
It's true.
you know what I'm saying?
I like that. Sustainable and practical. I think that's good
Exactly,
advice.
exactly. So that's how I call it. But yeah, that I think that those are kind of the most important things right there in a nutshell.